בגלל הזמן החולף אנחנו נוותר על השאלות, ואולי יהיה מקום, אולי בסוף, נראה איך תלוי במרצים האחרים. אני חושב שחלק גדול מההצלחה של שירי המגילה קשורה גם לאופי החילוני של מגילת אסתר. אנחנו יודעים את זה בלי קשר למאנגר, שמו של הקדוש ברוך הוא לא נזכר במגילה, ומאנגר אפילו לקח את זה עוד צעד אחד קדימה. כשכתוב במגילה רווח והצלה יעמוד ממקום אחר, אז מאנגר לקח את זה לכיוון של השטן ולא לקדוש ברוך הוא. אנחנו נפנה עכשיו למרצה השני, פרופסור דוד רוסקיס. פרופסור רוסקיס הוא חוקר ותיק של יידיש, הוא מלמד בשני מוסדות, ב-JTS, ב-Jewish Theological Seminary בניו יורק, וגם באוניברסיטה העברית בירושלים. תרומתו למחקר מאנגר ידועה ליודעים, הוא כתב לא מעט מאמרים בספריו השונים על מאנגר בכלל וגם על שירי המגילה. הוא גם היה שותף לתרגום לאנגלית של The World of Coding איציק, ככה זה נקרא, העולם על פי איציק, שיצא בתרגומו של ליאונרד וולף. דוד כתב את המבוא, ואני, למבוא הזה יש לי חשבון קטן איתו, בגלל שכשאני הכנתי את המהדורה שלי, נצנץ לי בראש שכל הסיפור הזה של הרצח, ההתנגשות של פסטריגוסה בהמן, זה סיפורו של הרש לקרט. גיבור ידוע לכל מי שמתמצא קצת בהיסטוריה של יהודי מזרח אירופה, שניסה גם כן להתנקש בחייו של מושל וילנה, שהיה אנטישמי ידוע וכו' וכו'. והייתי בטוח שהמצאתי את הגלגל וגיליתי תגלית שאיש עוד לא גילה, ואז להבותי, כמו שאומרים, מצאתי שדוד רוסקיס כבר הזכיר את זה במבואו הנזכר לאל. רבותיי, אני מקווה שלכולם יש את התמסיר, מי שאין לו אז יש בחוץ, אולי מישהו יחלק שם לאלה שאינם. פרופסור רוסקיס, בבקשה.
When Itzig Manger burst onto the Yiddish literary scene, he made much of the fact that he hailed from Romania, the home of the modern Yiddish fable, grotesque, and ballad. By fable, he meant the Chernovitz-based pedagogue and poet Eliezer Steinberg, who had turned that Hamish and homiletic genre into a high literary medium. By grotesque, Manger meant the satiric and sentimental operettas of Avram Goldfaden, which were but one step removed from the zany theatrics of Purimspiel. As for the ballad, which was revived in modern times by the German Romantic poets, and by Die Junge, the American Yiddish symbolist poets at the beginning of the 20th century, Manger's mission was to turn the ballad into the second Yiddish folk epic, after Peretz's Volksstimmliche Geschichten, stories in the folk vein. All three, the fable, operetta, and ballad, were the natural habitat of dialogue, dialect, argot, anecdote, improvisation, and public performance. He reminded his readers whenever he could, the epicenter of Yiddish land was not the Cheder and Bes Medrash, not the Hasidic Stiebel, but the workshop of the master tailor Hillel Manger, where the apprentices sang all the latest hits from Avrom Axelrad's Jüdisch-Deutschen Theater, the theater itself where the young Itzik used to help out backstage, and the rare occasions when his father would get up on the table, a glass of wine in his hand, and rehearse the story of his life in rhyme and to his own invented melody. Manger's personal engagement with the past, his profound sense of place, and his love of performance came together in the Chumash Lieder, later expanded into Medrash Itzik, his singular work of genius. Just as Romania served him well as a myth of origins, Chernovitz, a mecca of multiculturalism, served him better still as a school for stylized Yiddish folk art. That is where he was discovered by Eliezer Steinberg, who, small and ugly though he was, loved to get up on stage and perform his work by heart. Steinberg taught Manger three other things that fed directly into Medrash Itzik. Small is beautiful, Dialogue is everything. Yiddish is by the people, for the people. Small is beautiful. The average length of a Steinberg fable was 38 lines. In as few lines as possible, therefore, the poet thrust the reader or listener into some dramatic encounter or interpersonal conflict. So too, no Chumash Lied was more than 11 stanzas long and unfolded in 2 or 3 mini-acts. To narrate this highly compressed drama, מאנגר, like Steinberg before him, adopted a folk voice and mastered the art of simplicity. Each of מאנגר's Chumash Lieder was written in 4-line stanzas that used the regular rhyme, the bound rhythm, and the impersonal voice of a folk bard. Each poem cut the epic plot down to lyrical size. Each mixed comedy or conflict into the pathos, the pain, and the something unspoken. Dialogue is everything. Built into Steinberg's Misholim was a contest between 2 characters. Since the average fable was so short, the fabulous wasted no time establishing the power relations between the bayonet and the needle, the pig and the rooster, the brush and the boot, the cat and the salami, the clock and the sewing machine. Within the first few lines, Steinberg endowed each side with a different diction, intonation, and moral perspective. For Mánger, the Bible, both the Old Testament and even parts of the New Testament, was not only an inexhaustible source of myth and lore. The Bible was also the greatest as yet untapped source of Jewish drama. Here the points of conflict and contact came ready-made, between the patriarchs and the matriarchs, the Israelites and the non-Israelites, the shepherds and the kings and the concubines. And since the Bible was famously lacking in detail, the rabbis and the Jewish folk imagination filled in the gaps. Rochel geht zum Brunnen nach Wasser. Rachel goes to the well for water. This is in your handout. Opens with a famous textual conundrum. וללבד שתי בנות, שם הגדולה לאה ושם הקטנה רחל. ועיני לאה רכות, ורחל הייתה יפת תואר ויפת מראה. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the older one was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rachel. Leah had weak eyes. Rachel was shapely and beautiful. How exactly were Leah's eyes weak? Rashi explained that since Rebekah had 2 sons, and Laban had 2 daughters, Leah was distraught at the prospect of being married off to Rebekah's oldest son, Esav. Leah's eyes, in other words, were weak from crying over her bleak marriage prospects. Mánger brings to the verse a more updated reading. The scene is early evening. Rachel, Leah, and Laban are all at home. Rachel, who is standing at the mirror braiding the strands of her long black hair, interrupts her grooming at the sound of her father's cough, his wheezing on the stair, and rushes over to the alcove to warn her sister to hide her Schundroman, the true romance that she's been poring over in Yiddish. Leah, der Tate, schnell, she shouts. Leah, quickly, Daddy's coming. Seeing her sister emerge from the alcove, Rachel castigates her for ruining her eyes. Leah, machst von die Augen atell, genug schon verheint gelehnt. You've read enough for today. Although it is Leah's predicament that sets Acts 1 into motion, we hear only Rachel's voice and experience the love story through her perspective. Taking the water jug in Act 2, Rachel starts off for the well. Die Dämmerung, the twilight is blue and mild, says the poet, setting the dreamy stage, and the lyric landscape is enlivened by each one of the senses. The sight of a hare darting across the darkling field, the sound of a lamed vovnik, the folk name for a cricket or grasshopper, chirping chirik in the grass, and of a piper's piping trili, 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 and by the smell of dusk and hay emanating from the sheep and cows. In Act 3, with Rachel rushing now to her rendezvous, everything comes together. Sie läuft, schon spät, in Chumash steht, bei Brunnen wart der Gast, die Katz hat sich gewaschen heint, und sie hat heint gefasst. She runs, it's late. The Bible says a guest waits at the well. Today the cat has washed itself. Rachel is fasting still. Yes, the Bible provides the bare bones of the plot, but thanks to the folk imagination rich with omens and signs, Rachel knows that when a cat washes herself, guests are sure to come. Rachel reveals her true self both by her behavior and her speech. A child of the shtetl, she believes in such omens and spends the day fasting the way a kosher Jewish daughter should. As the more beautiful and self-absorbed of the two sisters, she is also endowed with petty bourgeois desires. Looking up at the darkening sky, she catches sight of what looks like an earring of gold hanging from the heavens. Wenn es wollten Gott gewesen zwei, ei, wollt ich sie gewollt. If only there were two of them, she cries out to herself, what I wouldn't give to own a pair. The Bible, as opposed to the Shundroman that Leah was reading, tells a story of true love. That is why the folk bard bestows his blessing on the scene and concludes the poem by repeating Rachel's very words. Wenn es wollten Gott gewesen zwei, ei, wollt sie sie gewollt. If only there were two of them, what she wouldn't do to own a pair. The final words are the spontaneous, unself-conscious, spoken words of the beautiful daughter, about to meet her Basherten, her predestined bridegroom. Yiddish is for the people, by the people. Just as for Steinberg, the fable was the arena, the ideal laboratory for pitting the simple, the disenfranchised, the ugly, the poor, and the silent, against the learned, the elite, the wealthy, the powerful, and the rhetorically sophisticated, so in Maanger's Chumash Lieder, the matriarchs elicited greater sympathy than the patriarchs, Hagar, the servant girl, than her Jewish employers, the powerless Esav than the privileged Yaakov, the hard-drinking Lot, as in Shiker Vilot, over his sanctimonious uncle Reb Avrom. Notable by their absence were the prophet and lawgiver Moshe Rabbeinu and his brother Aaron, the high priest. The People's Bible was down to earth and radically egalitarian. While the plot line and drama were based on something in Scripture, the time frame and actual setting of Maanger's Midrash, as we've already heard, was the shtetl imaginary, the East Galician shtetl, arrested in time at the turn of the 20th century, just as technology, trains, and secular culture were beginning to make significant inroads. The Chumash Lieder, in other words, were a form of mock epic, which contrasted the poorer, flatter, mundane, East European near present with the heroic, grandiose, ancient Near Eastern past. Only in Maanger's retelling, what quickly became apparent was that the present, however puny, was an ethical improvement over the past. And the most immediate way in which the present asserted its superiority over the past was while the past resided in the tattered pages of the biblical text written in Lashon Kodesh, the present spoke, laughed, played, cursed, cried, and sang in Yiddish. The setting of the Chumash Lieder in the imaginary time-space of the East Galician shtetl at the turn of the 20th century gave Maanger ample scope to flesh out the spare biblical narrative with speech acts and celebrations native to that time and place. Thus, Mother Sarah chants from the Tzenerena, the Yiddish Bible commentary. Avrom Avinu celebrates a Sholem Zocher on the first Friday after Isaac's birth. The invited guests, dressed in festive Streimlach, are dancing up a storm to the accompaniment of their own Hasidic nigunim. Later, Sarah rocks little Yitzchok to sleep with a Yiddish lullaby and recites the Saturday night prayer, Gott von Avrom. Jacob serenades Rachel under her window, and the Chumash Lieder end with Jacob in old age teaching his sons how to perform the Purim spiel of Mechiras Yosef, the selling of Joseph. The Bible is Yiddish land, replete with song, recitation, ritual, celebration, theatrics, from cradle to grave. After completing the first cycle of his Chumash Lieder in 1935, Maanger was ready to tackle the Book of Esther, the font of Yiddish folk drama in Ashkenaz. While writing the Megillah Lieder, he recalled in 1947, I suddenly realized, as clear as could be, that the lyric epic form of the Chumash Lieder was no longer appropriate. The love of the tailor's apprentice Fastre Gosse for Queen Esther was tailor-made for tragic comedy. I even began to consider, מאנגר admitted, reshaping the whole material and providing it with the adequate dramatic form. In other words, he was about to turn it into a play himself. Once he came up with the romantic subplot, Mánger understood that the material demanded a different method, even without turning it into an actual play. The new method was to introduce as many new voices as possible. As verschönert und verbessert, Manger's Megillah fully exploited the social and gender differentiation of spoken Yiddish. After the Läufer, the herald, introduces all the main characters in comic rhyme, which is a throwback to the Purim spiel, we hear the following dialogue between an anonymous mother and child. This is on page 3 of your handout.
Wer ist das Jidl mit dem Haupt, was dreht sich in Melechs Teuer und wo es reden und schüschken sich zwei?
Oi, bist du ein Narrele Kind, das weißt du nicht, der Fille. Motra Tzadik ist der Jid von der Megille. Where are we? We're not in Shushan anymore. We must be in Warsaw, Afti Nalevkis, in the heart of the Jewish quarter, which quite implausibly borders on the king's palace. And this is obvious on 2 counts, because of the idiomatic Yiddish spoken here, and because the Jew with the hunchback in the king's court and eavesdropping on every conversation is both Mordechai of the Purim spiel and the court Jew, the Shtadlan of diaspora politics. The mother-son dialogue picks up steam, and the son asks more questions, and the mother uses reported speech to explain Mordechai's unique position in the court.
Hat gefunden geen bei Melech. Nein, hat gefunden bei Melech geen, bei unser Melech dem Scheute, wo schickert gesedelt Tag und Nacht und hat an Nosareute. Für was hat gefunden bei Melech geen, bei unser Melech dem Scheute, wo schickert gesedelt Tag und Nacht und hat an Nosareuten? Der Pfarr, weil hat einmal bei Nacht in Teuer sich untergehört, wie Bixen wird Herrisch haben gesagt, wir haben den Melech in Dreher, der ist ein Tyrann, ein Finsterling, ein Riech in seinen Mammen, lommer im Schitten in Becher Sam und lommer im Versammen.
To convey the speech of the 2 plotters, the mother uses a more secular diction. Ist ein Tyrann, ein Finsterling, as befits 2 men who mix in royal politics. Then she has them swear a blue streak, Ariach in sein Mammen, as if Yiddish were their natural idiom. And this is how it works throughout the Megillah Lieder. The home, street, and workplace speak idiomatic Yiddish, or what I would call Jew speak. This speech is highly repetitive and emotive. Every fact comes packaged in a lot of feeling.
Lomer im Schitten in Becher Sam und lomer im Versammen.
Let's make sure we poison him for good. Offsetting the dialogue, the live and reported speech is the voice of the folk bard, the narrator, who speaks both a cleaner and leaner Yiddish and uses a special language reserved for modern poets. Vertracht sich das Kind und die Mame schweigt, he writes in conclusion. The child is lost in thought, the mother is silent. Der Abend is blau wie a Tfile. The evening is blue as a prayer. Only symbolist poets talk that way, use synesthesia, mixing sound and sight, such that an unspecified prayer has a specific color. And Mánger does this so subtly that we barely notice, especially since Tfile makes a perfect semantic rhyme with Megillah. Duby Seltzer's score, I should note, makes it easy to differentiate between live speech and the poet's commentary, between high and low, satiric and lyrical. After the dialogue comes this, which is drawn from 2 different stanzas. Vertracht sich das Kind, die Mame schweigt, der Abend ist blau wie a Tfile, und Motre hat das gemassert als ja ba 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 mit Nigen von der Megille. In the royal court, by contrast, where intrigue, flattery, and falsehood rule the day, German is spoken, Deutschified, fake, refined Yiddish, or some mishmash thereof. Malke, Haman will say when making his play for Queen Esther. Sie scheinen azoi wie die Sonne, azoi wie die Mond und die Stern. And when King Achashverosh walks in on them, he will cry,
Hamann, was ist das? Das ist doch unerhört. Queen Vashti is something else again. Unlike the traditional Purim spiel, where she and everyone else is played for laughs, Maanger's Vashti elicits our sympathy with her use of earthy Slavicisms and folk locutions. Maanger devotes 3 chapters to Vashti, as many as he does to Esther. In the last of them, page 4 of your handout, Vashti is led to the gallows through the streets of Shushan, Warsaw. But for the first 6 of the poem's 10 stanzas, we overhear a boisterous, sexually charged conversation among 3 spectators, Tzippa, Rivka, and Dvoire, who play out what each would have done if she had been ordered to appear before the king in the nude. Fe, Dvoire, Kroin, du redst nicht schein, mentor nicht also reden. Fe, Dvoire, my dear, or literally, Dvoire, my crown, says the most cautious of the 3. This is no way to talk. A Mädel, was redt a so eine Red, hab ich gehört von Seiden. Girls who talk such talk, I once heard from my grandfather. But what punishment is meted out for such licentious talk we never learn, because at that very moment Vashti herself appears, striding resolutely and silently to the gallows. She addresses alle die Schneiderjungen und die Maiden, the motley crowd of tailor apprentices and young maidens, with her eyes alone. And so drawn are they to her plight that they can hear her speaking to them in Polish Yiddish, with its characteristic etz for the plural you. Nor als etz wird spielen dem Purimspiel, sollt etz mich zum Guten dermannen. But when you put on the Purimspiel, she says, or seems to say, please put in a good word for me. Maanger, the poet, the poetic voice and moral conscience of the Warsaw Jewish working class, did just what Vashti asked for. He made her sound quintessentially Jewish. What's missing from the book of Esther? Not sex. There's plenty of sex. What's missing is love. And Itzig Maanger knew a thing or two about love. Love, he could attest, is all about talk. And the most natural language of love, he had every reason to believe, was Yiddish. So the love-struck hero Fastri Gosse, Maanger's great invention, speaks not in prose but in poetry, or to be more precise, in the language and imagery of the Yiddish folk song and love song. Fastri Gosse's elegy, the lyrical high point of the Megillah Lieder, is about the language of love. This is on the last page of your handout. As he looks up to her window in the king's palace, Fastri Gosse asks rhetorically, Gedenkst du, Esther, du hast mir gesagt, als ich bin bei dir der Schönste. Gedenkst du, Esther, du hast mir gesagt, als ich bin bei dir der Beste. Vor was hast du mich abgenaut? Sog, gibloschen Esther. Remember, Esther, you once said that I am the most handsome of your beaux. Remember, Esther, you once said that I am the best of all your beaux. Why did you deceive me? Tell me, Esther. Give it language. When you're in love, everything depends on what words are spoken and what words remain unspoken. And so Fastri Gosse rehearses their secret plan to elope and get married in Vienna, Esther's promise to carry out the plan on the first Sabbath after Shavuos, and the love talk that he can't get out of his head. Lovers who try their hand at poetry more often than not plagiarize from other, more accomplished poets. As a tailor's apprentice who was raised on a strict diet of Yiddish folk songs, Fastri Gosse's imagery comes ready-made. Und ich hab verspielt meine junge Jahr, wie a Kartjoschnik in Korten, he laments. And I wasted my youth like a card player who misplayed his hand. In a later scene, Fastri Gosse entrusts his words of love to the birds, rather than deliver them himself. Even more than Rachel in the Chumash Lieder, Fastri Gosse reveals his true self through his speech, more than through his actions. Conceived as tragic comedy, Maanger does not dramatize Fastri Gosse's desperate and futile attempt to assassinate the king. Rather,
We first learn about it from a comical exchange between Haman and his son Vaisose, the editor of the anti-Semitic rag sheet Narische Blätter, conducted in a mixture of idiomatic Yiddish and High German. It is Haman who reports the last words of Fastrigosse. Du Tyrann, you tyrant, gib mir takef mein Esterl op. Give me back my Esterl this very instant. As nicht, sog gich op wieder. If not, then say your last confession. A melech bist du, a charlatan. You call yourself a king, you're nothing but a fake. A mamzer ben hanide, a fucking son of a bitch. Wow, wow. Those are really desperate words, as befits a Jewish working-class hero who is half tragic and half comic. In conclusion, Itzik Manger was a genius who trained to become one. He trained to become one through the stylized folk art, what I call the art of creative betrayal, of Peretz, Sholem Aleichem, and Steinberg, who produced copies that were better than their folk originals, folk tales, legends, fairy tales, monologues, and fables that were both familiar and strange, kosher and treif. While preserving the regular rhyme, the bound rhythm, and impersonal voice of a folk bard, the grotesquerie, the mischief, and shenanigans of the Purim spiel, Manger's Megillah lieder added layers of dialogue, pathos, political subversion, and poetry that were not there before. The Yiddish language was his medium, but it was only through the example of such prose writers as Sholem Aleichem and such poets as Steinberg that he learned the art of Jew speak, how to play off male and female, rich and poor, learned and simple, Jew and Gentile, urban and rural, pious and secular, by the very language that they spoke, by the diction, dialect, and argot that they used. The Bible was his muse, but Manger returned to the Bible at a specific moment in time. Anti-Semitism, he wrote in 1939, bred Jewish self-hatred. A Jewry that did not engage its own myth as preserved in Scripture was doomed to self-destruct. Only that engagement could guarantee a permanent place for the Jewish folk imagination. But a Jewry that did not develop a new dramatic repertoire was doomed to live in perpetual fear and mourning and never experience the laughter and tears of Purim. Thank you.